Yo, it's Go, and welcome to the video. Today we'll look at the first 3 bosses in Sunwell, assuming it's going to be gated like it was when it was first released, and decide what gear we will be most interested in getting first if we have the option, if we have a soft reserve, or if you talk to your loot council and show them some of this information. Maybe that'll help them understand how big of a DPS increase these pieces are going to be for you. And spoiler alert, it's going to be the 3 new tier tokens. So I've got the Boomkin simulator pulled up here. I have it for a 2-minute fight using Starfire, Moonfire, Fairyfire, all of the raid buffs that I know that I get on a weekly basis, all of the consumes that I use, and all of the debuffs that I get. So this is without using Innervate, not in a Shadow Priest group, no jewel crafting next, and I'll try to be using Destro pots instead of mana pots if possible. So here we have arguably the phase 4 best in slot. The cloak is kind of pretty much the same DPS with the Shroud of the Highborn, but I already have the Illidari cloak, so I don't think I would change that for the haste. So I'm leaving this here for my testing. Even the neck, it sims a higher DPS than all the other necks, but I don't care for it too much just because it doesn't have that much spell power, but the Int and Spirit's going to help us out in Sunwell, so I'll leave that on there for the neck. And the rings, I'm going to change one of the rings to the Band of Eternal Sage just because I love the proc on it, and it's only like 2 or 3 DPS lower than having 2 haste rings, and we still don't have all of our casters with 1 ring yet. So just for fun, putting Eternal Sage on for this test. So if we go ahead and run this in, we're looking at a starting point going into Sunwell with 2165 DPS. And yes, I use tier 5, but I know the majority of people are using tier 6. But the way all of the gear upgrades is pretty much the same. So what loot is actually going to be available for us to pick from? Starting with Calicos, we have our Bracer token, a pair of cloth legs, and a pair of leather legs. Brutalist gives us our waist token, another pair of cloth legs, the main hand mace, and the offhand with haste and spell power. Finally, we have Felmist with our boot token and a 2-handed staff. We also have some loot from the trash, a pair of leather gloves, and then 4 crafted pieces. There's some BOE cloth gloves, a BOP cloth chest, a hit haste spell power ring, and the BOP jewel crafting necklace. So with this set, we're looking right under the hit cap, or right at it, 0.05% below. And that's going to play a part in all of this new gear that we're going to have. Now, there's hit on our legs, so getting one of the 3 new legs that are available, we would then have to also change another piece. So for instance, let's say we get the leather legs, we drop down to 14.5%. So then we would have to have a piece like the Mana Attune Band on hand to get our hit rating back up. So by doing so, we gain 27 DPS. If we got the haste spirit cloth legs, we would get 5 more DPS than the leather. But I do have a improved Divine Spirit Priest, so that spirit's giving me a little extra. And if we got the crit haste cloth legs, that bumps us up to 50 DPS more than our phase 4 best in slot. So I'm going to keep these equipped and continue on, assuming that we're not getting the tier tokens first, and then at the end I'll put on the 4-piece tier 5, 4-piece tier 6, and we can compare. So next on the list would be a weapon upgrade. So we have the mace, and since it's a weaker version and the most DPS offhand without hit on it, I'll be using the fetish to compare real quick. So if you only get the mace and you already have Zardum, your DPS really isn't going to change. So you'll have to get both to really see an improvement, and it's only looking like 20 DPS. The other option for weapons that we have is the staff, but 50 hit rating on it. There's just no way to not be over the hit cap with this. Even if you fully gemmed it with epic gems, it just doesn't fit well with any gear sets. So besides getting any crafted gear, that's really all we're looking at, is the legs, main hand, and offhand. If we wanted to say that we got the ring, that'll bump us up a tiny bit, so we'll get 8 DPS from that over the Mana Attune Band. Probably going to take a while for all the patterns to drop. Then if we had gloves, we would have to move some stuff around. The trash leather or the crafted cloth, we would either have to have a new token for our boots, belt, or bracers. Same thing with the tailoring chest, and we would be losing more hit with both of those slots since the new gear doesn't have hit and our tier 6 both do. So that's what makes it tough to justify going tailoring, is trying to keep the 4-piece tier 6 bonus. Then we have the jewel crafting neck, which that's going to give us 25 DPS. So if I had to pick a profession to go with enchanting, I think I would go with jewel crafting over tailoring. I'm an enchanter and engineer, so I'll probably stick with that. But early on in Sunwell at least, jewel crafting could get you a little bit of a boost. So I switched out our legs and put on the crafted tailoring chest just to see, and our DPS would go down. We would be just over hit capped with that. So that's why I'm not too keen on the tailoring chest. It's really good stats. It might fit into some sets depending on how loot drops and everything, but one reasoning is we spend 0.4 seconds so if we ended up not going because we got a good demonic rune proc on mana, then it might even it out. So let's look at the 4-piece tier 5 and 4-piece tier 6 combo. So if we got all of those upgrades, the best pair of cloth legs, main hand, offhand, jewel crafting ring, and we were a jewel crafter, and had the neck as well. From our beginning point of phase 4 bis into all of those pieces, we would be gaining about 103 DPS. So with the 4-piece tier 6 and 4-piece tier 5, using the gloves, belt, boots, bracers for tier 6, chest, shoulders, helm, and legs for tier 5, up to the cap, we're looking at 2303. So about 138 DPS from just those 3 pieces. So then we could swap out 3 of our 4 yellow gems, 1 staying hit spell power, the other 3 from crit to haste spell power. Since with that set we're not running at least for a 2-minute fight, and we can gain another 5 DPS. If we were getting those other slots, you saw, depending on what pieces we had, we were borderline going out of mana. So switching from crit to haste gems without the tier and having the double 4-piece, we would probably stick with the crit gems. So this is the route that I've showed interest with my loot council. Hopefully mages and rogues don't have more DPS increase by getting these 3 tier slots than we do, because I think having both 4-piece sets would be a really fun playstyle. So after the first gate opens, we'll have access to a little bit more loot, but we'll get into that in another video. So thanks for watching.